Hey everyone, welcome to the Super Review Show's Career Retrospectives with my good man Kyle.
Hey.
And today we are joined again by our dear friend and our super extraordinary music extraordinaire himself. Mike is back once again. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, glad to hear you. And as the title of this video and as this podcast suggests, we are talking today, and oh boy, we're going to discuss Def Leppard's new album, Diamond Star Halos. Who wants to go first and share their opinion first?
I'm gonna defer to you.
I'll just say that I was kind of looking forward to hearing what Def Leppard in 2022 sounded like. I mean, it hasn't been too long since they put something out, I guess, but really took me by surprise with what they did here. I was not expecting it, and not in a good way. I'll just start off by saying that I think that lyrically it really falls short quite a bit. I mean, that's saying something, because you don't really go to Def Leppard for great lyrics at all. But usually, at least the catchiness of the songs and the overall instrumentation makes up, and just the fun atmosphere of the songs usually makes up for that. It has in the past throughout their career. I really can't say the same for a majority of this album, and it's kind of shocking to me that this appears to be pretty well received by the overall fan base, at least online from what I've seen. So I'll just start it off with that. I mean, it's a very repetitive album, which we'll get into, but that's, for me, it was quite a bit of a letdown.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, cool art, by the way. I mean, that cover really sets you up for, almost gives me like the Illuminati feel. Like it almost feels like, and I don't want to start any controversy, like hashtag, Def Leppard, end of the world. But yeah, like I definitely felt like I was set up for some kind of journey. And in a lot of ways, I think that's what they were going for with this album, was a journey. Like in a lot of ways, like it's got some kind of atmospheric, and I think that's my biggest problem with the album, is it's a high atmosphere, less main big riffs, and kind of very kind of like guitar driven tracks. There's a lot of things going on in the background, a lot of like you're in space. There's one song about how forget which one it is. I have to look at the track if you had the track listing.
Yeah, we'll get that in a little bit. Don't worry.
Yeah. It's like, we're floating out in space. You have this kind of feeling of like, there's like a lot of like group kind of singing, lots of like atmospheric feel to it, but it lacks that big punch you in the face riff that sticks in your head. Although the first song starts off in the way I would hope the album would continue, but after that, you kind of see what they're going for is much more atmospheric, much more, that kind of a flavor versus like, here's your riff that's going to get caught in your head and we're going to build on that. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting approach, but definitely.
Yeah, I agree with almost every word of that. It's definitely atmospheric. I don't think it uses that to its advantage at all, though. I think oddly enough, you mentioned the guitar, though. I think that the guitar is actually one of the few positive things I took away from this album. I thought the guitar work was actually pretty decent on most of the songs. Not so much the atmospheric songs, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I was a little late to the party as far as streaming this album goes. I mean, I had heard, this new Def Leppard, the record coming out. I'm very curious to see what they do. I mean, the last album was in 2015 as well. So, and I mean, my first, and I love Def Leppard too. I like Hysteria, Pyromania, Euphoria, High and Dry, On Through the Night, even Adrenalize in the early 90s. But like going into this record, I was like, all right, I got a good feeling about what I'm going to get with Def Leppard. I'm going to get a good, at least I thought, I was like, I'm going to get a good record. I'm going to get something really, riff centric, entertained. I felt like the lyrics were like, they weren't like typical Def Leppard, but like this, the word I used initially was like, this is just a weird record. Truthfully, I mean, the two songs that were featuring, how do you say her name? Alison Cross, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand that. And I said something. I did an initial like car review. I after I streamed it while I was driving one day. I was listening and I did a quick like 2-minute video. It's up on our channel. Check it out. But I was like, this is like just odd. And like a lot of the string arrangements in some of the songs like were like reminded me of Two Steps Behind, but it was not Two Steps Behind good. It was just a lot of weird direction, a lot of lack of focus, truthfully. I mean, don't get, my Mike was right though. The album cover looks great. Look like some Illuminati crap's going on. But I mean, but like it's just it is not a Def Leppard record at all, in my opinion. I mean, I'm like, I was like, I mean, this starts off like strong, in my opinion, with like for opening riff, you're like, okay, that's what we're gonna get with like what's the we'll get to the track list in a second, but like the first 2 tracks, like, all right, I can get into this somewhat. Then the rest of the album just fell flat. I was like, there's string arrangements, there's some piano pieces. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, where's my Pour Some Sugar on Me chorus? Where's my Pyromania riff? Like, what's going on? I was really questioning a lot of stuff, truthfully. But it was, I shouldn't even say it, but I take that back. It's just a very weird, bad record. there's no buts around it. Like, it's just very weird and bad. Let's jump over to what else you guys got for me?
I say what's strange about it is it kind of like calls to a country rock album in a lot of ways, like especially in those first couple tracks, like the ones that were featured on like those music videos. It feels like I almost feel like they're gonna say, give me a hell yeah, and like a howdy do, like I don't know, like something like it feels like this with the song with like it's got like the real simple kind of like kick drum, like boom boom pop, boom boom pop, kind of like we're gonna get everyone clapping on this, and it feels like country, like a country rock album at times, and then it goes into that journey thing I told you where it's like we're in space and like we're heading to another universe or whatever, and then it goes into like a song that feels like very like what I would expect, but then it almost feels like 4 people made this album and couldn't decide what they wanted it to be. It was like, no, I want it to be like this. No, 100%. I want it to be like this. And then just, like they threw it together, phoned it in, did it in different studios. Maybe the pandemic had an effect on it. I don't know. And somewhere in that blender of like ideas and personalities in the room, they were able to come away with some kind of like pieced together idea of what directions they're all going in musically as a new album, I would have to say.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the country style, and the song This Guitar sounds like, literally it's like something you'd hear on modern country radio. It sounds like a pop country song. There's really like no rock in there. It's just, for what it's worth, it's not a bad song. I also wouldn't call it a good song. It's just boring. And I mean, the lyrics on it too are just the basic like, oh, music saved my life type style. And it's just it literally, I hear the country radio almost every day at work. If this came on rotation, 1, I wouldn't question it, and 2, I'd never in a million years be like, oh, that's the new Def Leppard song. It's just a weird choice. And like JT said, the 2 songs, This Guitar is the first one, and then what's it? I think Lifeless was the second one with Alison Krauss, or I think that's her name.
Yeah, we're gonna jump over to the track list.
Not a great feature. I thought it was kind of weird. She's on 2 songs, and I don't think it really hit either way. And yeah, Mike, you're right. There are like times randomly throughout the track list that a song will start hinting at, yep, here's the classic Def Leppard sound. But then we're going to throw it right off again by putting in another ballad. Way too many ballads on this album too. But also, and I want to point this out, I don't think there's a single song on this album, maybe there's one, maybe I'm wrong, that the chorus isn't just the song title repeated over and over with one other line thrown in. It's nearly every single song on here.
Yeah, and that feels a very like they kind of didn't spend a ton of time trying to kind of like be clever with it, or I feel like it was definitely and I've talked about this before. A band at their stage doesn't really have much to prove. If they're out here trying to make a name for themselves at this point, there's been a serious downfall in the band's kind of progress, and they're on a recovery or whatever. But at this point, it feels very like, yeah, man, what's the name of the song? Cool. All right, let's repeat that. And yeah, we'll do the chorus, and we'll kind of just, yeah, that's good. Cool. Let's cut, print. Let's get this thing going because we got a tour to do, and
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it feels like. I mean, when I was listening to it again today, just the repetitive nature of this album just really made it felt like forever getting through this thing again. Every song, if you just read the title of these tracks, you've essentially heard the song itself. That's so essentially the whole chorus.
It's definitely something that, and you're right, the choruses are just completely repetitive. They're nothing but like just the title over and over, the title of the song over and over again. And do you remember when they were first promoting this on their social media pages? Do you remember, like, I don't know Kyle, if you saw this or not, but like on Instagram, they're promoting it, like the font sizes were different, like one capital letter, one lowercase. Do you remember this?
Oh, were they doing that?
They did like the
I've seen a
trippy
bunch
lettering.
of bands do that. Yeah.
You're Def Leppard. You don't need to do trippy lettering. You're one of the biggest, if not one of the biggest surviving 80s hair metal acts out there. And like you're gonna do like trippy lettering, and the album cover does look cool though. You have to admit that. Like Mike, you're bang on correct with that. Like the eye in the middle, like the Illuminati's coming out. What? But I agree. It's so. The first time I streamed it, I was like, "What the hell were they thinking?" It's a lot of weird decisions, a lot of very bad choices. And the producer, I'm not in front of, Def Leppard produced it themselves with a guy named Ronan McHugh. It says here. So. I don't know. It's weird. But that's not just our initial thoughts. Let's go down the track listing for each track. And this album is an hour and 1 minute long. So let's get to that too. So I'm just going to read them off and then we'll go one by one. Okay. Take What You Want, Kick, Fire It Up, This Guitar, featuring Alison Krauss. I'm going to say your name. SOS Emergency, Liquid Dust, You Rock Me, ROKMI, the trippy lettering. It's throwing me off. Goodbye for Good This Time. All We Need. Open Your Eyes. Give Me a Kiss. I think it's featuring Allison again. Angels Can't Help You Now. Lifeless featuring Allison again. Unbreakable and From Here to Eternity. Who wants to go first and talk about the album and the track listing?
Well, I mean, I'll kick it in here and fire it up, guys. He's got jokes. Well, if I really open my eyes about this album, I'm done. All right, I'm done. I'm not gonna use this whole album as like phrases, but
you're just gonna go from the eye for the next hour.
Yeah, if I have an unbreakable opinion about it's interesting. There's like almost groups of like types of songs that they have coming in, like the Kick and Fire It Up, were like the ones I was telling you about. They're the fun, like, let's have fun, everybody. Like, they're just a real simple song. It didn't feel they were taking a lot of risks here. Like I said before, they have nothing to prove. They're not out here going, we got to reinvent ourselves or we're going to enter a new stage of sound. It is, in a lot of ways, it is kind of a very safe album where you're just kind of trying to have a fun feel and then like a sad feel, like the part where he's talking about the guitar saved his life. This guitar, it was like some of the cringiest lyrics I think I've heard in a while on some of these songs. It's painful. And just, and to be honest with you, like, if my standout tracks here, obviously the first song, Take What You Want, would come into view. Open Your Eyes, believe it or not, I'm not super proud of it, but Open Your Eyes is kind of growing on me, just because the melody of it and the kind of feel to it. Wouldn't say it's the greatest song, but my personal kind of interest in a certain kind of feel to a song, like, gravitates towards that kind of sounding song. Not that I'm a huge Def Leppard. I don't have a huge history in all of their songs and know their entire discography. Like, I know their greatest hits and all of that, but like, when I was listening to the song, it was a nice, like, refreshing kind of feel. But overall, it wasn't much to latch onto that kept myself feeling like they were really trying to drive anything home or take any risks on the album at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Kyle?
mean, I'd agree with that pretty much. The only thing I disagree with, Open Your Eyes, I was not a huge fan of personally. That one scored like a 5 out of 10 for me. Just kind of, this album sounds the same. Almost every song on here sounds the same. And I don't mean that as like the fast songs sound the same as the slow songs. Like you said, there are two different types of songs on here. You have your like fun, like, yeah, we're going to try to do the Def Leppard sound songs, and those all sound the same. And then you have your ballads, which I think there's way too many of on here. And those all sound almost indistinguishable from each other. One of my favorites, Take What You Want, the first song. It's a great intro to the album and really misled me. Immediately after that, with Kick and Fired Up, the album just took a nosedive for me. Because again, you don't go to Def Leppard when you want good lyrics. Their lyrics have always been corny and, you know, whatever. I mean, Pour Some Sugar on Me has some of the corniest lyrics in history, but it's potentially one of the best songs ever written in terms of like catchiness and just songwriting. It's great. But Kick, it's so corny and cringy. Like that whole chorus is just like, it grates on me. It gets annoying after the first like pass around the chorus when it's just the same thing. Then Fired Up, they did try to go a little experimental with that. Like the verses are kind of like a little rap style, which I actually enjoyed. I thought that was actually pretty well done.
Mm-hmm.
But then we just go right to the chorus, which is just the words "fire it up" with a couple other words thrown in. And the guitar on that one's pretty good. The only other ones that were really highlights for me, I thought SOS Emergency was pretty good. That has like the classic Def Leppard feel to it, with a slightly more modern approach, I would say. Solid, catchy song. Really not much else to say on it. All We Need, I thought was pretty decent as well. Not too much to say on it other than that. It's kind of like the corny ballad, but it had like the throwback sound to like the 80s ballads, which I enjoyed. My favorite on the album, though.
All We Need scored pretty high for me too, in the first song.
Yeah. It's All We Need. The thing I like about it is all the other ballads on this album, they all sound the same. All We Need, it reminded me that like the 80s ballads, which again, none of those 80s ballads had like great lyrics or anything. They were all pretty much the same concept, and it just the sound it had like a nostalgic sound to it, which I liked. But my favorite song on the album, which I actually didn't really recognize until today, is actually Gimme a Kiss. Just for the fact that it's a fun, old school sounding song, just through and through. And it was the most fun song I think I had like while listening to the album. It was the one that really made my ears perk up and be like, oh wow, this is actually what I want from a Def Leppard album. It's not whatever they were doing throughout the rest of this. And I mean, that's pretty much where it ends for me. The rest of them were all either just filler songs to me or just not good. And I think a lot of this album, one of the biggest sins I think any musician or band can do is have boring songs or a boring album. I would rather hear a bad album, just terribly written, terribly produced, terribly performed. I'd rather hear that than a boring album. And I think this album really goes more toward that boring side for most of it. And I also think From Here to Eternity is a horrendous closing track. It feels like it should have been half the length as an interlude, like in the middle.
Well, gentlemen, way more. Mike, you crack me up. No, I gotta say, like, I mean, thinking about when I first streamed it, and based on what you guys are saying too, Take What You Want's a great start. I mean, for the most part. I mean, it's not a great song, but it's a good start to what you think. Oh, this is what album's gonna go. Kind of like what Kyle said. I mean, but you're right. Kick, fire it up. Like after track 1, you're like, what? Like what's going on? And I know that for a long time I thought bands like Bon Jovi or Def Leppard or other bands in general wouldn't really feature artists. I know Green Day had one feature when that Ordinary World song on it, but like the featuring of Alison Krauss, just it didn't even add anything to those 2 songs. This Guitar and Lifeless, I just couldn't get behind her. Like why? The first thought was, why are they featuring an artist that I've never heard of on this one song? It's really weird, and like I don't know what it is. If it's some like, I guess you could say standout tracks. Like for some reason, You Rock Me. It's so stupid. The spelling of it is what's throwing me off. I'm not trying to be like an illiterate person either, or like, but the spelling. If you misspell lyrics or titles, it's just annoying to me. Forgive me, Def Leppard, for critiquing your spelling, but You Rock Me, like it's just so cringy and weird and bad. It reminds me of their promotion on Instagram. I'm looking at it, I'm like, why is Def Leppard putting weird spelling and capital letters and all this other stuff? What's going on? Are they high? Like I was thinking, like, what's happening? It was terrible.
Right. It comes off as they're trying like so hard to be like hip and cool like that.
I know, but like,
it's like when my grandpa's like, hey, if I spell it differently, it's gonna sound cool, right? And you're just like, no, Grandpa, go back in the other room, please, and stop talking to me about this.
I could see Mike's grandpa being like, You Rock Me.
Yeah, rock without the
with
C.
the same spelling. With the same spelling too.
And what's weird is, did you notice this little beat on the like
what?
Like the 13th and 14th track? Was it like Lifeless or Unbreakable? Or they put these like weird like pop kind of backtrack beats, and I'm like,
yes, and the guitar was distorted to the point that reminded me of, I actually had that written down in my notes. You're right. It has that like late 90s, early 2000s, like distorted pop beat.
It's weird. It's just like, it's like these guys are trying to like, it's the collision of like the internet world meets like a band who doesn't need to impress that world, but like all of a sudden it's like, hey, it won't hurt like kind of getting in on like some of the more like stuff going on today, like if we can scoop up any new fans with kind of like some attempt at sounding a little more pop, today's pop versus yesterday's pop, even though their version of today's pop is yesterday's pop, but let's do it, and it's like it feels very kind of like very purpose driven, like boost in that manner.
I just like, and thank you, Mike, for that amazing comment. You're the man. Like we're like all we need, like all we need, open your eyes, like, and I will say, just listening to it again earlier today, streaming it, like I understand if you want to do a ballad, like 2 steps behind from, was it Last Action Hero, is great, whatever the movie was, right? But like that's a great ballad. And it has strings on it, even when Love and Hate collide to an extent, like, but like it just, the strings and the piano, like there's a lot of weird instrumentation choices as well on this album too. And I'm like, what are you thinking? You're Def Leppard. Like, come on. I mean, like either one of you guys, did the strings and the piano, I forget what song it was on the piano, but like, what did it throw you guys off at all? Like, there's like a piano and a string like a lot of ballads. I'm like, what you're Def Leppard.
Yeah, the amount of ballads definitely did throw me off, and it really weighed it down for me. Pretty much all my least favorite songs on here were the ballads.
Yeah.
Even specifically Angels and Lifeless, they're both ballads, but they both sound like they were ballads, like pop ballads from the late 90s, early 2000s. Like Mike said, their version of today's pop is yesterday's pop. Like it's like they were trying to be cool like 20 years ago. If they released it 20 years ago, I'd be like, yep, that's an 80s glam metal band that's trying to stay relevant. Now when they release it, it's like this sound faded away on its own 20 years ago, and here you are bringing it back. It's just weird stylistic choices throughout, I think.
Yeah.
Watch
confusing.
what Kyle just said is going to start making a comeback because of this record.
Yeah.
Mike, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I was just saying, yeah, it definitely felt disjointed in that manner, and kind of lost its it starts off with all these fun songs all at once, and then it hits that middle area, where it's just very kind of like, yeah, like you said, just so many ballads, and then it kind of hits this, like, in a lot of ways, like I said it before, it feels very like they really put this one out real fast. There wasn't a ton of tweaking with it, or any kind of like um, just kind of really trying to set a bar high. It was just kind of like, we're gonna do this album. It's just gonna be fun for us, easy to perform. Like you said, the strings and stuff felt off. Like really felt like they didn't put they didn't really put it where it needed to be. It was just included for the sake of it. It wasn't like, man, this really complements this track. It's just like, yeah, let's put this because we've done it in the past, and like we're gonna try to just be really atmospheric to a level that I think atmospheric almost does it a disservice, because atmospheric, you lose the driving momentum of the album and the riffs, and the very memorable is kind of lost here. It just comes down to just like filler, lots of filler, a couple songs that were very targeted to their sound, and then a lot of just own it in. We're Def Leppard. We don't really need to go over the bar, and like it is what it is, I guess, for them. The money's, like you said, the fan base is still salivating as we speak.
But we're talking about the ballads. What makes ballads work? It's when it's a single song on an album that's like that. I mean, take like Motley Crue's Home Sweet Home, or Poison's like Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Two of the biggest like rock ballads out there. They're Skid Row's I Remember You.
Yeah.
Probably like the big three of rock ballads from back in the day. Those all worked in context of the album they were on, because it was, here's the big ballad of the album. It wasn't, well, we're just going to put like 7 ballads on one record and hope that one of them sticks and makes it. But really, I don't know who this album was for. Like when I listened to it, that was my first thought, like after I heard it like in full, was, who is this for? Because none of the songs are going to go anywhere in the mainstream, which is fine. They don't need to. They're still going to sell out stadium and arena shows just based on the Def Leppard name alone. But I don't picture any of these songs even being big like in the fan base either. Like I don't picture any of these songs having staying power in the fan base. Yeah, you look at like the comments on Facebook or even the critical reviews, YouTube comments, whatever. People are seeming to be loving this album. I don't personally get it. If people like it, that's great. But I'm just trying to figure out who this is for, because I don't think any of these songs are going to have any kind of staying power.
And who was the main writer? What was it? It was mostly
Joe Elliott.
Joe Elliott. So maybe it was for Joe Elliott. Let's be honest. He was the one who was writing it for me. It was just like, I really want to hear an album that sounds like this. I'm going to write it for me, and whoever comes along.
Yeah, which great for them. They don't need to. You're right. This album very much feels just like a legacy band that puts something out just to put something out. Good on them. It's good for them. They can still do whatever, and people are still going to see them. They could release the world's worst album, but they're so big that it doesn't matter.
Unpopular opinion, the From Here to Eternity, I kind of did appreciate the dark sounding of art of that. But I mean, I wasn't saying it's a great song and all. I just actually was like, oh, this is different. Like it very out of place. And it's almost like taking it completely, removing it from the album and just playing it, taking Def Leppard's name off it and just playing it as a piece, which I feel like a lot of people have trouble doing. A lot of people have trouble separating the name of the band, the era it's put out in. You just take it as a piece of art, a sound that you're listening to, and just isolate it. It does kind of like, it brings something I don't think belongs in the album, and it's strange. sounding compared to the rest of the album, which I appreciated. And I also noticed that this was it Rick Savage wrote that one in the first one, so I kind of felt like that that influence on those two songs. It was kind of interesting that both appealed to me. I'm like, I kind of wish that person had. I'm not too familiar with the band, so if I say that person or him or who, I'm not too familiar with if that's a member of the band or if that's like a producer. Producer, yeah, looks like it. Yeah, and it would totally make sense. Producers come in. Sometimes when a producer puts their hand in on something, they almost deliver a different feel, which I appreciate, versus the stuff that comes straight from the lead singer's mind, or like Alison Krauss's bluegrass country, apparently, according to that. Which there we go, man. They're just trying to. They're reaching the aisles.
I'm not too surprised with that though. We are talking about the same band that, 10 plus years ago now, did the the Crossroads special with Taylor Swift, where they played together.
That's right.
She played their songs with them, and they played her songs with her. So I mean, I guess it's been there for a while. I just didn't expect it to cross over into their music in this way, I guess.
Yeah. I remember that special was really something. So
it was pretty good. It was a pretty good special, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to touch on something really quick. So for those of you who are listening, you won't be able to see this, but if you go on the Wikipedia page for Diamond Star Halos, there's either one writer or two writers per song, which is, hey, I'm all for you could have 50 writers, you could have one writer. If the song is good, the song is good. But I think this kind of shows that their creative efforts were a little bit dry. I mean, Joe Elliott and Phil Collins wrote like half the album, really. And
yeah,
which I'm not against. I mean, I'm all for true art and writing good songs that are not overproduced, overwritten, 30 writers, 30 producers. That's normally that doesn't turn out well. Maroon 5's Geordie, or Red Pill Blues. At all. Those were terrible. But I'm surprised that it took Joe Elliott to write, Phil Collins to write a song called, again, You, the letter U, Rock, R-O-K, Me, M-I. I don't know what your process of thinking was to create a title, let alone a song that. I don't know. It's a lot of weird, just strange, bad choices. But I want to read them the length of it. It's also a long album, so it's 61. It's an hour long. That's what drives me crazy with it too.
Easily could have shaved 20 minutes off of this.
Yes.
And I think it would have been a much better album for it.
I agree. If you take off something,
Yeah, what's kind of interesting is some of the lyrics almost felt like written by AI. I don't know if you've ever seen these things where someone writes it, but it's like, there's a hole where my heart is, or dance like no one's watching, or what do they said in this song, or some of the lines come straight off of a white girl's Instagram page, and
I have to look up I have to look up the lyrics for this guitar, because there was one line in that song that when it was said, I actually started laughing. I was listening to it at work and I actually started laughing, so I gotta see if I could find it.
Oh God, I can't wait,
because I thought it was the most odd thing. Here it is. Caress me with your honesty endlessly.
Wow.
I heard that. I just what?
That's terrible.
It's just so odd. I mean, the lyrics of that song just kind of are weird to me in general.
And that was on this guitar, right?
Yeah, that was on this guitar.
Okay.
But Mike's definitely right. This album does feel like those memes where it's like, I fed AI 100 hours of Def Leppard songs, and this was the result.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Which you are listening, I now challenge you, do this and make it happen and post whatever you come up with, and we'll compare their new album with whatever you just fed AI, and we'll bring it in. All right, that's your challenge.
Someone out there on the internet, do it.
Don't miss out. All right.
How about you? You can reach us on Twitter and Instagram at the Super Review Show. Contact us there.
We'll
send us your
write Def Leppard style songs with those lyrics and see if we can do better.
Yes, we're gonna write, and on top of that, we're gonna change the Def Leppard lettering and logo and font and all this other stuff too. No, I'm just kidding.
And in the great words of Anthony Fantano, I feel a strong 4 to a light 5 on this. That's my official rating. So I wanted to. I am a very numbers guy. I like to put out a rating to kind of go with it. So that's where I'm sitting on it. So
my numbers actually came out pretty similar. Came out to about a 5.4 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, my numbers are not very similar to yours. I'm gonna go with a solid 5. I think I said 4.5 or 5 out of 10, something like that in my video I did. I was like, it's very weird choices, strange titling, and the promotion for it was cringy as it was. And then there's so many weird decisions on this record, and I don't know. I'm looking at the lane, like the fact that you have like something from Here to Eternity, which is 5 minutes and 37 seconds long. That's just insanity. Or like some of the lengths were questionable. Like this whole album's questionable. Like what's going on?
They're like, no one's gonna get to this song. Let's go crazy.
No one's gonna get to the bonus track 17 right here. Lifeless, just Joe Elliott only. Here we go.
So I think that my problem with the lengths of these songs is they're pretty standard for like this genre. They're not like overly long, but they feel so long. Like they don't use the time well. It's just such standard like verse, like intro, like instrumental, verse, chorus, maybe a bridge or a guitar solo. And even then there was none that even stood out. And it was just, we'll repeat the chorus at the end of the song.
Yeah.
And when you have a chorus that's the same exact thing with no variation throughout the song, it just, even a song like let's use Open Your Eyes for example.
You stay away from that. No,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It's only over 4 minutes, but if they cut it down to like 3, I think it could have worked. Because the problem I have with a lot of these is they got boring. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that like some of my favorite songs in this one are the shorter songs, because like they're not trying to just waste time like filling this song with unnecessary repetition and just boring instrumentals. They actually have a purpose. They're like, all right, here's the fun short song, here you go.
Well, to note, I was heavily on drugs while listening to this album. I'm just kidding. I wasn't. Don't do drugs, kids. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
We promote clean and sober lives here at the Super.
That's right. That's
Stay
right.
Sober. Don't be Anthony Kiedis and do heroin. We don't want to do that.
Yes. Hey, new Red Hot Chili Peppers album coming out here soon. I'm excited.
Yeah, right. No, but I was
not very good.
Who was it? Who was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, either one of you guys. What like, let's start with Mike. You said the fan base is reacting really positive to this.
Yeah, generally YouTube comments. I mean, can you really
Facebook
gauge a
comments.
universe on YouTube comments? Not likely. Most of those people who post there kind of, you really get a small vision of what like the true fan base is saying about it. But I mean, you definitely get a feel that there are a lot of fans of Def Leppard that are pretty much gonna call it a fun album. And I hate that definition, because fun lets you excuse a lot of lackluster kind of songwriting and like ideas, because fun designates this idea that it's just it's not out here to really go crazy. It's just it's gonna have fun, and and that's just a dangerous word to throw around. It's a fun album. Like fun is fun, but also quality is quality. So you can have fun quality, guys. Relax. You know what I mean? Like there is such a thing. Not everything that's fun has to be low quality. So therein lies the problem. I have to do a little more research on what the general fan base is saying, because the YouTube comments and then just I have to look at the critics. Like, I mean, do we have any critic release responses about this? I mean, is there a reception?
Yeah, it's about 4 stars, 4 out of 5, 7 out of 10. Worst one on here was like 3, which is even higher than I would give it.
Me too.
Yeah. Wow. The check was in the mail.
I agree though, Mike. Like you mentioned, you can't really use like YouTube comments, Facebook comments as a great metric for it. it is very much like an echo chamber of it, at this point, who's following other than like fans that are probably going to blindly love everything that they put out.
Right.
You know, it's Def Leppard. It's a band that was famous decades ago, like at their height. So the people following their page are, you know, most likely going to be just your diehard fans that are going to just say that they love everything that they put out.
Right.
But,
Yep.
and yeah, in terms of what you said about a fun album, I think you're 100% right, because if I wanted to, I could make an album. Let's see, Take What You Want, Kick, Fire It Up, SOS Emergency, Liquid Dust, You Rock Me, Give Me a Kiss. Boom. I just made a shorter, stupid, fun album that you could put on in the background, and it would, you know, you could consider it a fun album. And half the songs I just listed, I don't even like. But if you gave me that as an album, I think I'd say that it was much better than what we got here. But like you said, you use fun, you call something a fun album, and all of a sudden it's, yeah, but is it good? Was the songwriting good, or did they just churn out a bunch of fun, upbeat songs? Like, there's a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Kick and Fire It Up, they're definitely fun, upbeat songs. I wouldn't say they're well-written songs or, you know, even good songs, but they're fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's the dangerous part. You know, it's the dangerous part that happens.
And this is coming from someone that loves fun music. Like, there's a lot of things that I listen to that I'm like, yeah, it's like objectively bad, but it's fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, there's just a lot of environment, like, you know, atmospheric stuff going on in the second half of the album that goes from fun to just painfully droll and kind of cliche, and just, like I said before, not really doing anything to win over any new fans or set a tone for where they're going. It's just like, hey, we need these in an album because they're just generally what happens in an album. You got to have this kind of type of song, that type of song, and it's definitely a phone it in. Sure.
Yeah, and I find it interesting when I just look at, like, you know, think about their legacy in general. I compare it to, I look at the tour that they're on now, like the stadium tour with Motley Crue, Poison, and Joan Jett. And it just gets me thinking, like, Poison and Motley Crue both have not released albums since the 2000s. Motley Crue, you know, they've done a couple one-off singles here and there, or like for the soundtrack of their movie. I don't know about Joan Jett. I don't really follow her all that much. Maybe there's just a reason. You know, you're a legacy band now. Same thing with Kiss and their last album, Monster. And Kiss just straight up came out and said it, and they were right. It's another thing where, unpopular opinion, I tend to agree with Gene Simmons' comment that rock is dead in terms of mainstream and all that. But they essentially said, no one wants to hear a new Kiss album. You go to the shows, you want to hear the big songs. No one wants to hear a Kiss album in 2022. I would say Def Leppard could probably take a hint from that. You know, if they want to put it out, you know, more power to them. I don't think they need to. And I saw the set list for this tour. They're playing like 4 songs from this album. I don't know about you, but going to that, I think I'd be pretty let down. I think that there's 4 other songs from the past that they could be playing instead of things from here. I would say maybe play 1, maybe 2 songs from it. But, you know, it seems like they want to, it seems like they're not putting it out for just themselves. Like, it seems like they're putting it out with the intention of it being like a popular album to play. And I just don't think that that's what people really want from them anymore.
Come on, guys, let's get this #1 on Spotify. I could see them telling the crowd that, you know, like the whole idea of buying an album has gone extinct, of course. And it's just like, let's get this #1 on Spotify, everybody. Here's the song. Like, forget the rest of the album. We have these fun songs that you're going to like that are all going to be on Spotify.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. It's definitely weird. But it's interesting. Is there a band who's an old time band? When I say old time, I use that word very loosely. Obviously, like, you know, band from the 80s, band from the 70s who's released a current album where they've redefined their sound and have
actually successful with it.
Yeah, I mean that's a
Not
discussion for another time. But
I mean, I will say I'm a fan, but I think Ted Nugent still releases pretty solid stuff. His last album, wasn't the best, but it had a couple of songs in there that I was like, yeah, that's a Ted Nugent song, all right.
Couple bangers.
But I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, Motley Crue's last album was great, but that was in 2008, so you can't really consider that modern anymore.
Just want to let you guys know, I have a friend of mine. He was actually at the Stadium Tour show. He was at the Stadium Tour show, and he saw the City Field show, and he sent me his review of all 4 performances on stage. But I just want to show what he said about Def Leppard live. He said, because Def Leppard closed the night. I heard Motley and Def Leppard are switching every night.
They alternate every night.
Yeah. He said Def Leppard was everything it was his first time seeing him too. Seeing any of them live. He said Def Leppard was everything I expected and more. They seriously pack just as much as they punch now, as I'm sure they did then in terms of their live sound. They were loud, tight, energetic. Rick Allen was absolutely killing it on drums, in parentheses, which is seriously mind-blowing considering how long he's been doing this and the fact that he only has one arm, right? I really love the tone of his drums and all the reverb on the records. And Joe Elliott, despite being a lot older now, sounded good, I thought. Sure, he has to modify his singing techniques nowadays to be able to hit some of those notes, those crazy high notes like Songs in Photograph, in parentheses, which was probably one of my favorites of the entire night, or Rock of Ages. As a frontman, he was reserved compared to someone like Brent Michaels, but I do feel that he was focusing more on giving his top-notch vocals, which he certainly did. That's what a friend of mine who saw the Stadium Tour and saw Def Leppard live recently. So I guess, and they did play 4 songs off the record. He said they went over well live, but I mean, as we just said here, we're not too big on the new record, of course, as we can clearly say. But I just want to share his thoughts.
I could see some of these ones going over well live, though. Like,
that's true.
Like Kick, I could see people having fun to that live. Like maybe it is a song that works better. I mean, JT, you discussed it when talking about Kiss's Alive album.
Yes.
There are certain songs that just go over better in certain situations. Like when I look at Kiss's early discography, I'll definitely go and listen to the live versions more. They just translate better that way. But I don't know. I've seen Def Leppard live a handful of times.
Yeah.
Probably like 3 or 4 at this point. They've been great every time I've seen them. I just think at this point, when I go to see Def Leppard, I want to hear the hits. I want to hear all the hits and maybe a couple of the minor hits. I don't need to hear any new stuff from them.
Yeah.
This pretty much solidified it for me.
Clearly, you're waiting for From Here to Eternity to close out the night instead of Rock of Ages and Photo. I'm just kidding. Sorry about that. I'm just kidding. You're waiting for that one song to be like, oh, we're gonna end it on that note. No, of course not. But any other concluding thoughts? Any other last minute thoughts for Diamond Star Halos? Anyone?
No, I guess the last thing I would say just ended on my my finalized rating of, like I said, probably about a 5, somewhere between 5 to 5.5, I would say. And that's just because the songs that I liked, I thought were actually pretty solid. Like I thought "Give Me a Kiss" was actually a great song. That raised the rating up a little bit. Overall, middle of the road album, about a 5.
Yeah, Mike.
I'm actually gonna play the album backwards because it's hitting big with the Masons with the whole Illuminati thing. Maybe I'll get a new message out of it. I'll do another review of the album played backwards. So I'm gonna work on that one. But so far, didn't deliver anything. Caught me off guard. It also didn't deliver what I expected. It felt at times like a contemporary Christian album, weirdly enough. If that sounds like I felt like some of the songs could have been like released by a Christian rock band. I don't know why, but I just got that vibe from some of the songs, talking about like some of the lyrical themes, but then the next song will completely go against what they were just kind of talking about. Like it'll be like "Angels Can't Save You" or something. Like I don't know. It felt very confused. Definitely too many people trying to make an album. No one had like the same kind of idea. So, but
So
yeah,
what
5.
your takeaway is that we need to replace Joe Elliott with Scott Stapp, and we have the perfect band.
Yes. Let's make this happen. Scott Stapp, answer your phone, damn you.
Yeah. Oh my god. My concluding thoughts, I would say that it's a definitely a 5 out of 10 for me, for 4.5 out of 10 for me, truthfully. It was not would I say it's their best? No, of course not. But I mean, there are some redeemable qualities. Like we said, we talked about certain couple songs here and there. But overall, it's just a very middle of the road record. That's kind of sad. And it's truthfully, it's just not, it's a lot of questionable choices. And I'm surprised the fan base is so, I mean, I'm sure some like hardcore fans like this is great. Well, I mean, but if you really break it down, like, is it that will it hold up in 5 years, 10 years? Will they go back to it consistently live? Who knows? But overall, it's a solid 4.5 or a 5 out of 10 for me. That's fine with me. Very middle of the road, as Kyle said and I said as well. But yeah, so is that it, guys?
All we got.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I want to thank everyone for whoever tuned in to watch us, listen to us. Thank you so much for, as always, for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. We do this every Monday, or in this case, Tuesday. I was super busy yesterday. Forget me. But we did this Tuesday night tonight, and the podcast is uploaded to Spotify every the following day after we broadcast live on YouTube. So check us out there on Spotify as well. I want to thank Kyle, as always, for tuning in for these discussions. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Of course.
And Mike coming back. You should just be a regular on the show, dude. At this point,
Hey,
come on.
man. I'm glad I'm glad you have me, man, for sure.
You're like the musical like genius outside of the two of us. Like you're like the third component that's missing. It's like the missing piece, you know.
I'm just but a brick in the wall of the musical review. That's all. I'm a humble servant.
Perfect. But thank you for so much for watching and listening. We'll see you guys for next week for another episode of Career Retrospectives. So stay safe, man. Take care.